Shailendra Bhatnagar, Editor Markets at Business Today TV, and our esteemed guests that will be joining him on this particular chat will be Ashish Chauhan, MD and CEO NSE. Can we have a huge round of applause, please?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Shail Bhatnagar, and we have a very special guest today, Mr. Ashish Chauhan. He's the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of India's most successful startup. That's the National Stock Exchange. All of us are in some way or the other connected to the National Stock Exchange. Some of our wealth resides there. And over the next 25 years, India will create more wealth than what she did in the previous 250. And in the next 10 years, you will see more wealth created on the stock exchanges than what we've seen in the last 100 years. And the man squarely in the center of all this is Mr. Chauhan. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Now, we will structure this talk in a manner that is beneficial to all. Please tighten your seat belts. And if you haven't so far participated in India's booming financial markets, today's the time to start. And the reason why I tell you this is because the amount of wealth creation that we'll see over the next 2.5 decades when India moves from $4 trillion to $20 trillion is going to be phenomenal. And Mr. Chauhan is going to help us create that roadmap. Ashishji, I'll first start with the fact that, India was known to be a country of snake charmers. And here is an organization which went online from day one and created one of the finest exchanges globally, which is the largest in terms of derivatives and the third largest in terms of market capitalization. You were there from the start in 1999. Tell us how it happened.
Thank you, Shail. Pleasure being here. It's an interesting story in a way that after Harshad Mehta scam, the government wanted to set up an exchange which did not have the influence of brokers. And that's where they told IDBI, which was a public sector institution, to set up NSE. And they selected 5 people to set that up from within their ranks. I was one of them. So that's how I ended up becoming part of NSE. Otherwise, I was a banker, I'm an engineer, but that's where basically the NSE story began. And in some ways, post-independence, we wanted to be a socialist economy. And markets were basically something which were tolerated at most. They were satta bazaar, right? They were never to create help in nation building. Only in 91, when we started liberalizing, and we saw how the rest of the world was using markets for nation building, for capital formation, for wealth creation, for job creation. That's where we wanted to do something which was clean and which was automated. And it was a wish, like any other wish, right? But to do things, what happened from 92, immediately after Rashad Mehta scam, this team was created. And between, say, 1992 to 94, we planned and executed. 94, November 3, we started. It was a sci-fi movie happening in Purnia, in 1994. Nobody even thought that these dhoti topi walas, they don't even understand computers. Even the scientists don't have computers in India. Today, all of us have mobile phones and we run around. But those days, it used to take 5 years to get a telephone line at home. And to make it work every day, you had to pay the bribe to the linesman. Linesmen used to be the most dowry takers in those days, if you recall, right? So from that situation to create an exchange which would work on a screen, match on the screen, be available to anywhere in India, continuously was a total sci-fi thing, and somehow it happened. It basically was the largest technology demonstrator India had. It was the largest demonstrator of India's brain power in early 1993-94. After that, Y2K came, India's IT prowess started getting known to the world. But every IT company I recall used to bring their potential white clients into NSE to show that India ye kar sakta hai.
Correct.
Right? So it started not only a stock market revolution, but it started IT revolution. It started wireless telecom revolution. The first satellite telecom two-way was created by me for NSE. After that, all the cellulars and all banking revolution, all e-payments, e-governance, whatever we see today in IT, in all the sort of e-commerce, everything, it was the first e-commerce activity in India those days. In 1994, nobody called it e-commerce. Today we can call it. But effectively, that's where it helped India so much, not only in stock markets, but also in just creating that confidence, making it so much more automated, so much more confident than ever before. And over from 94 to today, 29 years, what has happened? When NSE started, the market capitalization of India totally was around 4 lakh crore rupees. Today, how much it is? 4 crore rupees. 4 multiplied by 10 raised to 14. 4 के पीछे 14 zero लगाने हैं. To make it simple, $3.6 trillion, okay? In rupee terms, it has gone up 80 times. In that 29 years, 80 times rupee terms returns, but dollar terms, it has gone from $120 billion to now almost $3.8 trillion, more than 30 times in dollar terms. Warren Buffett, if he had just invested in Nifty, he would have been as rich as he is today. You don't require to be a Warren Buffett in India to multiply your wealth. It has helped India create jobs. It has helped India create wealth. It has also democratized. To those days, probably 20, 30, 50 lakh people used to invest in stock markets. Today, 7.5 crore PAN number, unique PAN numbers are registered with me. That 7.5 crore unique PAN numbers is actually 5 crore households. 5 crore households is 17% of all India's households directly now trade with NSE. And if you take EPFO, everything else, it is now 25 to 30%. 1 out of every 3 households is probably connected in direct or indirect way. And that is also true on the wealth. Today, that $3.6 trillion or $3.8 trillion wealth, which NSE represents, is also 1/3 of India's total wealth. 1 out of every 3 rupee India considers wealth, including this building, all the tumblers and buckets, and all the jewelries and all the buildings in the country, and all the land. 1/3 is basically coming out of stock markets. And what is stock market, right? Unknown people are investing in business of unknown people. A person sitting in Jorhat or a Dibrugarh is putting her hard-earned 1,000 rupees into a company in Salem, in Tamil Nadu. She is never going to visit. She doesn't even know what that business is going to look like. But she has a complete confidence that her money will be spent well, and whenever that business makes profit, she will get that small share of that dividend. It is such a beautiful thing. Indian economy, a poor country like ours with $2,500 per capita, was not supposed to have any such thing. There is no country with $2,500 per capita income and such a market. There is no country with $5,000 per capita income and such a market. There is no country with $10,000 per capita income in such a market. There is no country with $20,000 per capita income in such a market. Only one market is that, China. Wherever prices go down, government has to go and buy. In my market, government only taxes, right?
Absolutely.
So effectively, this is a very, very precious thing that has happened in India. It has helped India. It will continue to help. Whatever growth India has to do in economics, socially, otherwise, because what I say is, even dharmasya moolam artha. So even if you have to do religion, you have to have artha. That is money. And that's where today, despite all importance being given to banking system, today the stock markets are 1.5 times or more larger than the entire banking system's asset size.
Right. Mr. Chauhan, let's take this argument a little forward. As of now, if you see, in the 6 hours and 15 minutes that the National Stock Exchange trades on a regular basis, you have about 1,300 crore transactions happening seamlessly without human intervention. That's about 200 crore transactions per second. I have known Mr. Chauhan over the last 25 years. He's a very modest man, but a very, very large part of the success that we see in India as far as IT is concerned rests on his shoulders. What we take for granted, online payments, seamless banking, permanent settlements that happen without any human intervention, is because of the IT prowess that the National Stock Exchange exhibited. And behind that has been Mr. Chauhan. Apart from at the National Stock Exchange, he's worked previously with the Bombay Stock Exchange and has written a wonderful book called The Bombay Stock Exchange, Temple of Wealth Creation. Mr. Chauhan, 25 years from now, India has a global macro tailwind which is fairly strong at this point of time. Where do you think we will be? Design a roadmap for us so that the 125 people that are sitting here may benefit financially from participating in this wonderful journey that we call the National Stock Exchange.
So I give you a background, right? So where we have reached is a function of where we were.
Yes.
So in 1995, the base year of Nifty index, okay, now it's 28 years. It was 1,000 on November 3, 95, okay? Today, it is 19,300. Market capitalization, as I told you, is now $3.8 trillion. It was 120 billion. It has gone up 30 times in last 28 years. Now, today, we have reached that $3.8 trillion market cap and around $3.5 trillion of GDP. If you just take a simple growth framework of 7% or 7.5% as the annual growth rate over next 25 years, some years will be very good, some years will be very bad. You might have even a 10% year, and you might also have a 3% year. But on average, if you take 7%, which is feasible, because last 28 years we have grown similarly, right? So if that is true, the market has gone from 1,000 to 19,300. Similarly, would the GDP also grow from that much, that is $3.5 trillion by 19 times? That will make it almost $70 trillion. Now, even America today is close to $28 trillion. China is somewhere close to $18 trillion. So effectively, we have grown reasonably fast over last so many years. But if we continue to grow at that pace, our markets, assuming it grows, say, even 15 times, today we are 3.8 multiplied by 15 would be $40-50 trillion. For me, it may not happen. Even at half, it's still $20 trillion. And that's what somewhere I think the heading earlier given was that will Indian market reach $40 trillion? It's possible, because just 7% simple compounded growth, you will figure out that it will reach probably $40-50 trillion. But that is not how the world works, right? And the sky, I mean, the tree doesn't go to sky. I mean, it will keep on growing and somewhere it will start plateauing. But the room which we have over next 25 years is phenomenal. Today, we have a unique opportunity, and we are in a unique place as a country, because last 1,000 years, when, for me, I mean, I am a technology man, and technology is what changes the world. Technology is what creates wealth. The world actually falls around the new technologies and starts using it. And last 1,000 years created more wealth than what was created in, say, last 10 lakh years by the human race, right? And that, why did it get created is because technology has evolved rapidly.
Right,
and
sir.
last 1,000 years, India was not in the race only. India was not even in the stadium. India was not even 10 kilometers away from the stadium. We were not even spectators, right? Today, when technology race is being run, we are at the starting line. In fact, we are supposed to win going forward. And if we don't go in a wrong direction, there is nothing which can stop me. And if you had asked me, say 30 years back when I was setting up NSE, that India would be so good, so rich, I would not have even imagined. And that's why what the technology is going to bring with its newer waves, which are coming faster and faster, it's going to be phenomenal going.
Right, sir. So while Mr. Chauhan has spoken about the GDP part, since he's the creator of Nifty, let me just give you a mathematical exploration. Over the next 25 years, if Nifty compounds very simply at 11%, and let me regress a bit, if we are at 18,000, over the next 25 years, we will have 4 compounding zones. So the Nifty will go from 18 to 36, 36 to 72, 72 to 144, and from 144 to 288. 2,88,000. Let's presume this Goldilocks scenario does not continue and we are somewhere like 2 lakh or 1,75,000 on the Nifty. Remember, this is just the Nifty compounding, not a good equity diversified fund, which will be far better and will give you a phenomenal return. We've seen these kind of returns happening in the past, and they're definitely going to happen in the future. Mr. Chauhan, regulatorily, we are probably the best possible exchange in the world when it comes to seamless transactions, full-time connectivity, payments happening like clockwork, now of course T+1. Where do you think is the next technological advance coming?
In a way, even this T+1, I mean, this NSE was so much out of place in 1994, nobody could even believe that America, New York is not automated.
Yes.
Europe is not automated. How India became automated. And that is true today also. What we do is a sci-fi to America. I call America a 19th century technology in 21st century. All over the world, we recently implemented T+1 settlement. T+1 settlement simply is, if you trade today, you get your money and stock tomorrow. Nowhere in the world T+1 is there. They talk a lot. They will tell you about all the nice things that will happen if T+1 happens, but they continue to talk. We execute. So that is the difference between us and them. And today, literally last 1 year, we have been called, at least in 15 world events by my colleagues, how did we implement T+1? Because it's not only a technological prowess which we display, but also societal prowess of handling newer processes, newer technologies, which is what basically gives me that confidence that regulatorily what needs to be done, our regulators are also techno-savvy. Many of them are engineers.
Yes.
But if you just saw Mr. Amitabh Kant, right? You have also seen Mr. Nitin Gadkari in the morning. I mean, this kind of policymakers, this kind of executors, what is the choice we have, right? We have to be the best. We have to continue to be the best. That is what the expectation of Indian public is. That's the expectation from our bosses is.
Right. So, Mr. Chauhan, now in the remaining 11 minutes, I'll ask you questions which are pertaining to the National Stock Exchange. You've set up a wonderful macro base for phenomenal growth. Tell me, we have about 4 or 5 indices that trade fairly regularly in the F&O format. Is there a plan? You have about 19 indices. How will the market grow in size? You execute about 200 crore transactions an hour. The capacity is 10 times more. Where is this going to come from?
In a way, your argument, basically your question is, what are the new products you see in the market? See, one is the equity indexes, right? So, for example, we are trying to bring IT index back, Nifty IT, Nifty Pharma. Those are the kind of things we plan to have back. But more importantly, there are fundamental gaps in the Indian market offerings. One is on the interest rate. Interest rate futures are not that successful yet. We have also proposed corporate bond index futures. We also proposed government bond index futures, because all over the world, the bond indexes markets are like several times larger than equities indexes market, right? So basically interest rate markets is what we need to bring. Similarly, electricity futures. CERC, which is the electricity regulator, regulates the spot market through spot exchanges and also, of course, long-term contracts. But now SEBI has got the powers to regulate the futures and options market in electricity. So that is where basically again we are working. Similarly, carbon credit. That's where again a new, all the SDG and all those targets, net zero and all, will only come out if we have a carbon credit market. And so that also we have started working on. So it's not only the stock markets where you need to work, because our main purpose is to help India create wealth, and that will come out of the capital formation and not incessant trading in indexes. But because we also are world's largest exchange of any type, just to give you a perspective, today, as you said, we do 1,500 crore orders in one day, 6 hours, 15 minutes. But we also trade 20 crore orders every day. On every Thursday, we will be closing 20 crores trades a day. New York Stock Exchange today does around 5% of our number of trades. They might be trading more in volume. But today, the largest next exchange is in Brazil, which is 20% of our size.
Wow.
So effectively, if somebody says, no, have you looked at other countries, other things? Boss, now they are too small, right? And that's where this is literally first time I'm giving you this information, just to give you that comfort that what you take for granted every day, when you place an order, you get exactly the trade price, and next day you get your stock once you pay up. It happens by magic, but behind that magic, there is a lot of organization, a lot of planning, a lot of execution that happens. And that's where India's IT prowess, but also India's ability to organize itself well, and all its people, that is you and me, actually are using that in a disciplined way, is a phenomenal thing which no other country is even able to grasp.
Absolutely. Mr. Chauhan, for all the people sitting in the audience, and all of us, remember, ladies and gentlemen, will live far, far longer than what we actually hope to be. If somebody is wanting to, participate in this wonderful journey that will see us at $20 trillion in GDP 25 years from now, and maybe far, far higher in the Nifty than what it is today, what would you suggest?
No, one thing which I've always said is, investors have to be investors. Somehow a perception has been created that buying in the morning and selling in the afternoon is called investment. It is basically satta, right? It is trading. And my humble request to every investor is that please don't indulge in derivatives trading if you don't know about it. Please don't buy in the morning and sell in the evening by watching on television or getting your 2020 reports and sort of acting like as if you will make billions in one day. Boss, this is a place to create wealth and not lose whatever you have, right? So might as well, if you don't know, if you don't have the time or expertise, go to mutual funds, go to portfolio managers, but don't just believe in some tips which comes to you, or somebody calls up saying, sir, on television, I have these 100 shares and I have taken this, what is stop loss? You don't have to know that. Boss, you have other job, you have other work, you have other business. If you want to participate in investments. Why? Is because if you put money in gold, last 25 years, gold has given very low return compared to stock markets. Stock market returns are almost 14-15%, year on year compounded. As I told you, 1,000 rupees invested in Nifty in 1995 would have become 19,300 rupees today. But on top of that, if you take the dividends, it would have become actually 25,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees to 20,000 rupees in 28 years, that is 25 times. No real estate. एक दो जगह पे हुआ होगा, but otherwise no real estate has given you that. No gold, no fixed deposits can give you that. If you think India is going to grow, invest in markets, but stay invested. Don't get impatient because everyone thinks he's Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. Unfortunately, expired after that, there is no Rakesh Jhunjhunwala born, right? So please stay long. Don't try to capture the lowest part saying I'll invest now and then it will go up and I'll sort of sell at the peak. There is nobody who is God, right? Stay invested long. You will benefit. That's how people in the long-term investments have benefited. And my request is don't indulge in day-to-day trading, no derivatives if you don't know.
Wonderful. So this is the best advice that at least I have heard, and a lot of us actually put it into practice. Spending time in the market is more important than timing the market. And Mr. Chauhan says it really well. We'll keep a certain amount of time for Q&A if you have some. My final question to you, sir, is that you are a turnaround specialist and you were asked to, actually summoned to take care of the National Stock Exchange in 2022 after the Himalayan Yogi scandal surfaced because of SEBI's order. A lot of people have always hoped that the National Stock Exchange will be listed one day. And of course, you are the guy who actually helps the rest of the world list on the markets. So when do we expect your IPO to hit the capital markets?
So this is the second most frequent question asked to me. The first most frequent question asked to me is, what will be the Nifty after 1 year? Right? And I say that my job is like a traffic police, I can tell you which cars brake well. I cannot tell you which cars actually function well in terms of everything else. And similarly, I'm a regulator broadly and also a service provider in terms of ensuring your transactions go well. And also an umpire to an extent because I also have to run the regulations. But overall, I wouldn't know what would be the Nifty tomorrow or next moment or.
But you would certainly know when you'll get listed.
Yeah, and similarly, on the listing, basically, as you are all aware, there were issues at NSE, and SEBI has certain apprehensions about our sort of being able to meet their expectations, so that India from 7.5 crores investors, it goes to a double or triple. And for that, whatever confidence is required for SEBI in terms of our processes, our procedures, our technology, our intentions. So that is where, as and when SEBI becomes more comfortable, they will tell us to apply, and that is the time we will apply. Otherwise, once the approval comes, the process of doing IPO is mechanical. It takes 3 to 6 months, probably 7 months max. And I have done many IPOs, including BSE's IPO in my tenure. So in some ways, IPOs are not new to me. But once we get an approval, because we are not a normal company, we are a regulator, frontline regulator. And whenever SEBI feels comfortable, that's what they will tell us to sort of move forward. And that's what I would want to convey to all the investors that, and also whoever is listening, saying, doing an IPO is a great thing because it actually increases or improves the corporate governance of any company, because investors keep on asking very tough questions, and from the minutest to the most macro, and that's why companies, especially public companies like this, should be listed. But again, as and when the regulators feel comfortable, given the experiences they had with us earlier.
Okay. Just for the record, 13 years before Mr. Chauhan started his second tenure in the National Stock Exchange in 2022, he was the Chairman Managing Director of the Bombay Stock Exchange. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll open this house for at least 2 questions. Please feel free. There's a gentleman sitting there, I'm sure in the right age to start investing or maybe, put in more money. Yes, sir, to you. Yes, we can hear you.
It's a very interesting question. You brought in Gift City also. Gift City is another thing which we did not touch, but it's like Hong Kong for China. gift city is for India. So effectively, Hong Kong helped China grow rapidly over last 40 years because it had a Anglo-Saxon legal system, English-speaking people, and that was used by China to funnel a lot of investments from abroad into China. China doesn't have a similar legal system like we have, or any other European country or America has, and that's where basically the gift city was conceptualized by Honorable Prime Minister for ensuring that we are able to also funnel some of the funds that are required for very rapid growth of India from abroad. And that is the purpose. We started a new segment there, the ESG segment, or what we call green segment. And similarly in India, Indian domestic area, which is NSE in Mumbai, we have also got now ESG regulations from SEBI. So there are two aspects to it. One is that every company which works in India will have to follow certain standards. That is what the government standards coming. Then if you come and list your company on Indian exchanges, then you have to follow slightly higher standards or substantially higher standards in some ways. And that's where the SEBI regulations on ESG come in. And then the third part is basically ESG bonds, which are the companies actually list their equities, but they also raise funds through bonds. And the ESG bonds can be basically the green bonds or those kind of things. We have a separate segment also on the NSE for listing of those, and we, like many of the municipal bonds, are structured as green bonds or ESG bonds because of the fact that they help you save the environment and other things. So that's where many other companies which are also going to require funds and want to raise funds without diluting the equity, they will also come through ESG sort of bonds. And similarly, many of them will want to raise funds from investors abroad. That's where either they do it in NSE domestically in Mumbai, or they do it through the gift city. Today in gift city we have close to $80–85 billion of bonds already listed, out of which some portion is probably $9–10 billion are on the ESG side. The rest is what we call masala bonds and sort of dollar bonds and stuff like that. And in India also we would have a few $1 billion of bonds already on the ESG side.
Siddharth, you have a question.
In the interest of time, I'll keep it really short since you spoke about T1 and how India leads the world. And I ask you this question seriously, is real-time settlement even possible to consider?
Real-time settlement, in a way, when I said T+1 is a sci-fi movie happening in India, rest of the world is just watching with bated breath that how did these guys do it. And then our regulators have now started talking about the real-time settlement, right? And the real-time settlements are possible in India because of the way our payment systems now are so real-time. They were not so few years back. And so one side is the payment side, that is the banking system. Other side is the depository side, which is on our side, securities market side, where they own, they keep the record of your holdings. And if they are able to do it on real time, I should be able to do it. But both buyer and seller have to give it in a way in a very short time frame. So as and when the new sort of regulations come and settle down, the implementation is something which is easy. An Indian public is able to adapt to newer and newer. We started like in 1992-3. Many of you are as old as me in this market. And you would recall we used to trade in BSE for 15 days, and then settlement used to happen 45–50 days after that. So it used to be like T+60 days if you are lucky. In between some default did not happen. Today you are on T+1 and we think it is par for the course. We don't even think it is something unusual. And similarly, when it happens real time, it will happen so fast and so easily in Indian system, including all, because humans have to adapt to that system, and humans in India are able to adapt to literally everything. That is what I have seen, and my hope and faith is that Indians are the most adaptable people, especially when it comes to technology and speed, which is what they want. They expect speed from us, from every authority that is, and that's what we will deliver as soon as the new regulations come.
Right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful session. Thank you, Mr. Chauhan. And we won't stop you from lunch. The other point I wanted to mention was we've sort of laid a roadmap on how to make money. Just after lunch, there'll be a session on consumption, and we'll teach you how to spend that.
Well, we're looking forward to that. Thanks so much, Shail, and thanks, Mr. Chauhan. I'd like to call upon stage Dinesh Bhatia, Group CEO India Today Group, to felicitate Mr. Chauhan. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the only one standing in between you and a lovely lunch, but I must tell you that take this time out to recharge and come back, because there's an action-packed schedule in the second half and you don't want to miss it. Can we have a huge round of applause